education and running curriculum. Here today, we have students from Elizabeth Ag Elementary, Prairie View Elementary, and Lakeview Junior High. They all have worked very hard to put together some outstanding projects, and each student here is going to explain how they use technology to demonstrate what they've learned. Tonight, we are here to focus on just how exactly are these projects created, and just how District 66 is using technology to its advantage. I welcome you to District 66's Tech Night. Starting off, we have Noah Cook, Noah Bertulis, Noah Gathus, and Kyle Martin, all from second grade.
Thank you very much for being here, everyone. I really appreciate it. These guys have worked super hard, and hopefully you're going to enjoy seeing all of their various presentations. All right, explain a little bit about what you did with Mrs. Hayes before you began your project.
First, we read Clever Jack Takes the Cake. Then Mrs. Hayes told us how different stories can end in different ways. She said that even happening using the same pictures, she told us that we were going to write a story on the computer, and I was really happy.
All right, can you tell us what you did when you first began your story?
We were thinking of a title, and we thought that we would make a wonderful. We decided to call it The 3 Little Birds. The first thing we did was work on our cover.
And how did you choose your pictures and write the story?
When we knew what we were going to do for the cover, we knew what we were going to do for the pages. So when we did the pages, we dragged the pages over and put them on the piece of paper on the computer screen, and that's how we made it.
Were there different ways to set up the pages of the story?
Yes, you can put the picture in the sides, at the top or the bottom, and you can put the words in different gaps so you can read the words and the pictures.
Did you guys like creating your story?
Yes!
Let's show everyone your story, Bert.
The 3 Little Birds. Noah Bertulis, Noah Gathus, and Kyle Martin. Once upon a time, there were 3 little birds that met a king. It was his birthday. He wanted candy corn. First, the birds went to the candy store, but the bag of candy corn was $1. The birds only had 25 cents. First, they met a poor bird, and the bird gave 25 more cents for the cake. Now they have 50 cents. Then they met a robot that gave them 25 cents for the cake. Then they met a purple guy. The purple guy said you can't just have 25 cents free for the cake. You have to do a challenge. First, you have to find my friend's lemonade and his friend. Then they found lemonade and his friend. The bird said, "Lemonade, please come. Your friend wants you." "Okay," said Lemonade. "Thanks," said the birds. "Wow, you're good at finding my friends. I'll give you 25 cents." So they ran to the store and got the candy corn. And then they went to the castle to see the king. So they gave the candy corn and said, "Happy birthday," and they lived happily ever after.
Next up, we have Candy Desvanovich and Ryan Werkes from third grade.
We're going to talk about a science project about my outstanding science researchers.
Can you tell us what you were studying before you began this project?
We studied the solar system before we began.
And how did you get started on the project?
Ms. Brown put her names on the board with our topics and told us we were going to research it. We got our Chromebooks and emails if we wanted one and log in. We went to our drive and accounts and found the file. Both of us had the same file, and Miss Brown did too. Sometimes when we opened the file, there was a comment Miss Brown put there that there were things we needed to fix, or she would tell us that we were doing a good job.
Did you have to make some decisions before you started?
Yes, we had to decide who's going on which slides, and we didn't have any trouble deciding.
And where did you find the information?
We have links to our websites that help us find the information. One website was really good. We went to it and clicked Moon and read it. All of the things we needed to find were there. The things we couldn't find, we went to the other websites for.
And how did you find the pictures to put in your presentation?
We went to tools and research, and we typed in Moon, and then we found a picture and dragged it to our document, and we clicked on the top right corner to resize the picture correctly.
And what did the class do when you were, for the most part, finished with your presentation?
When we finished our slides, we had to edit each other's work. Ms. Cullen has us spend a lot of time doing that, and we found quite a few mistakes. Things like spelling capitalizations and periods and stuff.
And what did you do with your project when everyone was done?
Got to present our project to the class. Here it is. Use the vocabulary slide. Use my slide on what? Use my slide on Will. Here's on who. Here is interesting facts about the moon.
And what are some things you guys learned from doing this project?
I learned that Galileo made the first telescope. He studied the moon using the telescope. I learned that the moon has a cloud that we cannot see from Earth. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Reorganize here.
We will have Nora Coonrod and Gwen Royal from 4th grade.
Hi, I'm Gwen.
And I'm Nora.
In Mrs. Bell's science class, we learned about all the human body systems.
Mrs. Bell put us in groups and we got to choose the body system we wanted to do. Others were doing our first choice, but when Mrs. Bell asked if anyone wanted to do the circulatory system, we said we would.
It was actually a little easier because my brother was doing a project on Hemopedia, so I knew a little bit about it. First, we logged into our Google account.
I had two files. One was the note-taking sheet and the other was the project. I shared both with Mrs. Bell and Gwen. This is where we knew what we needed to go on each slide. And these are how we got to the approved link. And here's all of our research.
And here you can see how we were able to talk to Mrs. Bell from home. When we finished our research, we were ready to begin our presentation. As we started creating our presentation, which you can see here, I found a neat picture. Nora brought out that it would be hard to memorize who would be saying what during the presentation. So, we talked about how we should do it, and we came up with a neat idea. We did red for the arteries and blue for the veins. We both decided to work on all of the slides together that are in red are one and I was blue. Sometimes we had to go back and look more carefully when we found a lot about our topic. We used two books, one from Mrs. Bell's room and one from the library. We used library checkout time to find information too. Sometimes we put 2 or 3 pictures in a space if they fit better. Sometimes we got stuck and we just had to look further or go back and reread. We eventually found everything. And here's our final presentation. We hope you enjoyed learning about how we learned about the circulatory system.
Next up, we have Abby Seguin, Jimmy Kowal, and Nina Pinto, all from 5th grade.
Hi, my name is Jimmy.
I'm Nina.
And I'm Abby.
In reading textbooks, we studied the unsolved mystery of Amelia Earhart and her story about her inner textbook.
We were introduced to the project by Mrs. Homer and Mr. Potts. There was a Google site with the possible unsolved mysteries, so you could go to links and read about them and chose our top 3.
Mr. Potts put us together based on our choices, and we found out that we were researching Easter Island.
We thought about how we would present our material, and we learned a bit about the differences between using a Google site and a Google presentation. We discussed which to use and voted. Google Sites won. I created a document and shared it with my partners so we could all take notes in one place. Here you can see many of our notes.
I created the website and shared it with my partners. Our teacher gave us a rubric that included information we needed. That helped us with our research.
We made decisions on who was going to look into which theory and had a debate over one. We found a site with some additional information which helped us a lot.
For the theory I was researching, we found a great video that really helped support my theory.
Every site we got information from, we made sure to keep track of. We didn't miss a few and had to go back and locate them. In the future, we'll make sure to keep track of all our sources.
We also used newspapers.com to find articles about Easter Island. It was cool because they had a lot of articles from a really long time ago. We could compare and contrast what people were thinking over 100 years ago with today.
We also looked for quotes about Easter Island and tried to locate an expert who we emailed questions to. Unfortunately, we didn't get a response, but other groups did from all over the world.
Once we had information, it was just a matter of time of putting together a website. And here it is. We learned that you cannot be editing the same page at the same time, and that everyone needed to be an owner of the document in order to make formatting changes.
Here you can see our final website. I'll show you some of the pages. We made a Google presentation and embedded it in our website here. This page has the video I mentioned earlier that shows how the rock's made when moved.
these theories.
My theory was about aliens.
My theory is how the Arabian New people rigged a frame sled and used it to move the statues.
And here are the newspaper articles that we found that are all from early 1900s.
At first, I thought this project was going to be really hard, but it turned out to be really fun.
And exciting.
And sometimes stressful. Thank you.
Next up, we have Emily Leatherwood and Kate Stanley from 6th grade.
Hi, today Kate and I are going to tell you about some of the technology we used in Project Challenge this year.
We're focusing on the vacation package that we used, and we also used 10,000 fictitious dollars. But first, before we knew what the project was going to be, we used Google Earth and Google Maps to find and explore 3 cities of our interest. Could you explain Google Maps?
Of course, Google Maps is a way to see either where you are going, where places are, or the streets of cities, towns, or basically anywhere else. I used Google Maps to explore Paris and the metro, which is like their subway system. As you can see on this map, Paris has lots and lots of lines, which means it has lots of ways of transportation and roads. We also used Google Earth. Would you please briefly explain Google Earth, Kate?
Sure. Google Earth is a search site where you can type your selected place into a bar, and then it immediately takes you to that place. From there, you can zoom in or zoom out on your selected place. Here we have our cities, Fairbanks and Paris, and they're almost polar opposites, and Google Earth makes it easy to see that.
The next part of our project was lots and lots of research.
We received a large sheet of questions that required a lot of detailed and researched answers. These questions took a lot of TLC.
These questions took lots and lots of time, and they pushed the deadline for this project back, but that's okay because it was a very important part.
The next part of our project was creating a detailed itinerary. Here we have my itinerary, and as you can see, I also included the expense chart all in one. It seemed more efficient that way at the time. But mine is really detailed.
Which is very important. For my itinerary, I used a Google tool to create a table in my research document, so it was all in one place. The last step was actually creating our presentation. At first, our teacher, Mrs. Moss, decided to have us do a vlog using Vlogster.com, which we did in our regular social studies class. It's like an online interactive poster board. But since both Kate and I thought it'd be a lot more organized and efficient to use a slideshow, she opened it up to anything.
And here I have my presentation, and as you can see, I did it on Fairbanks, of course, and then I added trip tips, and every single day was a day of my itinerary, and I converted my itinerary just into the presentation.
Now I'll show you some slides for my presentation. So I did mine in Paris, and we had to find pictures for the background, or just solid, like this. I researched Paris to put some facts in there, also travel information. And then I also converted my itinerary into here, but I did it on solid, and some of them were so busy that they had more than one slide. And then after every day, I put in pictures. To represent what you see on that day.
During this project, I learned that you can use many different sites like Expedia, travel sites, or just normal search sites to find distances and times from places that you want to go to.
I learned how when you're researching and making a trip, you have to use many different search engines sites to find what would be the best way to go. For example, whether you want to use a site like Expedia to book your hotel and flight in a bundle, or whether booking them separately would be a better deal. Maybe one day we can go on a trip to Paris.
Next up, we have Aaron Edwards and Jenny Caspian from 7th grade.
I'm Aaron. I'm Jen. First, we've been studying cells, DNA mutations, and extant diseases. And then Mrs. Gamble introduced the project to us.
We were given a list of diseases or syndromes that we could choose from, and we could either work individually or with a partner. From there, we picked our top 3 topics and the people we work well with, and Ms. Gamble paired us up from that.
We were given a research packet, as you can see here, where we were able to take notes, and she gave us websites we could use to start off our research.
The research packet was shared via Google Drive to both of us and Ms. Gamble, so we could both put stuff into the document at the same time. It allowed us to collaborate easily at home and at school.
We were also given a printed packet with a rubric and questions on it that could drive our research. Most of our research wasn't too difficult, however, researching how to detect a carrier of Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease was very difficult because the process is lengthy, expensive, and there's not a lot of places that undergo the testing.
We were also required to do a public service announcement, which is like a poster, and you can see it here. Once our research was mostly completed, we began our presentation. It includes a couple quotes, interesting facts, statistics, and 2 videos. So here are, so we started it off kind of, we gave background information. On the topic, and then the next slide we explain how it's caused. Notice how the bottom is empty, and then when you click, like each picture shows up at a different task. We did this so people could focus on one picture and not just the slide as a whole, so you could focus on one thing at a time. We did some extra credit, which you can see here. On the symptom slide, we did the same thing. We made each symptom show up at a different time, so you could focus on one symptom at a time. This video at the bottom shows how things we take for granted are hard to do with Charcot-Marie-Tooth.
One thing we wanted to show you is that we learned how to start a video partway into it. We started this video 43 seconds into it to keep within the time frame of our presentation.
You know you have CMT when hammocks look terrifying and not relaxing.
Hey Bethany, get in here. I want to take a shot of you and them.
I'm not getting in that thing.
Why not?
You know you have CMT when handshakes are really awkward.
Hey Bethany, nice to meet you.
Hi. Nice to
Nice to
meet
meet
you.
you.
You know,
From this project, we learned 2 main things.
it helped us gain empathy for those with these diseases and syndromes, and we learned how to use new technology in an educational way.
Thanks.
In 8th grade, we have Vince Benna and Elijah Schofield.
Hi, I'm Vince. We're here to present the future of technology and education in the arts. We got to experience a new way to be creative, and that was through filmmaking. It's really cool to learn these things at a young age because we can put them to good use throughout our lives.
Miss Hitt taught us about the different camera angles we use in filming. She showed us many professional examples, and she lived in the city, so she had an example showing the city from a car's view, and it was really cool. So that's where we got our example from, or our idea.
The first thing we did was to create a storyboard about what we were going to do. It had to be between 1 to 2 minutes long. We had to get an idea of what we'd like to do, so we had drawn out our storyboard. It took a lot of planning, including on how long each portion of our video was going to be. That right there is our first storyboard, and our final video ended up quite different than this.
She gave us a couple days to go outside and experiment in filmmaking. Everyone was mostly just using their own devices. Most kids had iPhones, but people without a device were given a camcorder by the sit.
Our video wasn't just a normal video, because we had filters and so on in WeVideo. That's the software that we used. Here you can see is a screenshot of it. It's not just about taking the video, but it's about how you put it together in the software.
We got to select filters and choose where the song should start and end. And we also got to put multiple clips together that we filmed where we thought were necessary. And after that, we got to crop them and put them where we thought was best. And this was the final result.
And that wind noise, we can actually mute that out in WeVideo, but we didn't know that at the time. We hope you enjoyed our video. Thanks for watching.
Also from 8th grade, we have Kate Stapleman and Chantel DuPont.
Hello, I am Kate.
I'm Chantel.
So throughout the year, we've been using Sketchpad to better visualize and fully understand theorems in our geometry class. Without this program, we wouldn't be able to comprehend theorems as quickly as we do.
By only looking at a theorem in a textbook, we won't be able to fully understand why a certain theorem is always true. However, with Sketchpad, our geometry class can fully visualize and undergo the process of proving theorems. Additionally, when taking a test, I can remember theorems better because I can see it through what I did with Sketchpad.
Sketchpad is a program used in math classes for many different reasons, including graphing, fractions, and ratio and proportions. Sketchpad is also very engaging for students.
This is a diagram from our geometry textbook that displays the theorem in a triangle. The sum of its three angles will always be 180 degrees. As you can see, only looking at a picture cannot help an individual fully understand the reason why this theorem will remain true. However, we will later show you in Sketchpad how this theorem can be explained better through the program.
This is a page from our textbook that explains the corresponding angles theorems. In the textbook, you can only see one example of a theorem that didn't let my classmates and myself to comprehend it to our full extent. In Sketchpad, we are able to manipulate the theorem and understand that under any circumstance, the theorem will always be true.
This is a diagram from our geometry textbook that displays the theorem in a triangle. The sum of its So now let's take a look at these theorems in the Sketchpad program.
This sketchpad activity is proving the theorem in a triangle the sum of its three angles will always remain 180 degrees. In this sketchpad activity, these two lines are known as parallel lines, and the lines that are cutting through them are known as transversal. We know that in every line, it equals 180 degrees, and that alternate interior angles always have the same measures. When I drag these points around, as you can see, as I drag these points around, as you can see, the alternate interior angles remain the same. And you also can see that the sum of all three of the angles of a triangle still remain 180 degrees. Sketchpad helped convince our class that this theorem is true better than our textbooks did.
In this sketchpad, we have a proof of the corresponding angles theorem that states that alternate interior angles are congruent, alternate exterior angles are congruent, corresponding angles are congruent, etc. We see that these two lines are parallel and that they are cut by a transversal. For example, the alternate interior angles, whenever I move the transversal, will always stay the same. This theorem states that the alternate exterior angles will always stay the same also. Again, when I move the transversal, the angles will always be congruent. These two corresponding angles will always be congruent, as said before. As you can see, Sketchpad will help students visualize the theorems in multiple situations.
To conclude, Sketchpad is very beneficial in the classroom environment. This unique math program helps students understand and reason through theorems rather than reading something straight from a textbook. Sketchpad gives my peers and I a whole different level of understanding when in math class. Thank you.
Lastly, from 8th grade, we have Matt and Jake Burrow.
Hello, my name is Matt Burrows.
And I'm Jake.
We're going to present our Hero Machine project.
In 8th grade science, the unit we were studying was elements in the periodic table. Ms. Schwenkel asked us to rank the 3 elements from the periodic table that we would want to research. Everyone got one of their top 3 for the project. She told us that we were going to create a hero or a villain to symbolize different characteristics of the element and write a story based on our heroes or villains' characteristics.
Ms. Schwenkel then posted a template to Google Templates to use to record all of our research. Here's my research on the element thallium. We had to find the boiling point, the melting point, the uses, effects, and so on.
Once we were finished finding all of our facts for research, we spent a day just exploring Hero Machine 3.0. When we were playing around with Hero Machine, we had to think about how the superhero or villain could represent all the characteristics of our element that we researched.
Here's what we use to represent our element through a hero or villain. This is where we had tons of choices to represent the characteristics of our element. We had, for example, hair, gloves, feet, heads, ears, eyebrows, and so on. It just goes on and on.
Once our hero was created, we used a snipping tool to create an image that we could upload to Comic Life for the next phase of our project. Here's a screenshot of my Comic Life, partially completed,
anyone ever thought possible. Thank you for coming to District 66's Tech Night.
Recognition. If you've seen the commercial on TV or heard on the radio, Captain Obvious, that's going to be my role right now. I have nothing grand to say other than the obvious of what it took to bring this for you tonight. First of all, we have teachers in the audience. Not all of them, I think, could be here, but if we've got teachers, we could have pulled a number of teachers across the district who are working with their students in these type of things. So if I could have the teachers stand up real quick. They're going to be mad at me for doing it. Thank you all. Recognize the teachers. This is a different way of learning. All of us think back to when we were in second grade through 8th grade. I'm guessing none of us had any experience like this. Our teachers didn't have these kind of experiences. Because it's new, it's different, it takes time, it's harder, it's unique. And so there is extra effort on our teachers' parts. They can't do it without some support of their administrators, and she's going to be mad at me even more, but Mrs. Fulmer worked very, very hard as we were doing these projects, but also the time she put in working with each one of our students to make sure that they didn't just get up and talk about, show their presentation over again, which would be interesting, but that wasn't the point. It was to talk about their learning tonight. And Mrs. Fulmer really did a fantastic job. The reason we did this tonight was to show you a little snippet, several snippets, boys and girls and men, a lot of snippets about the way learning is different. And what you heard tonight, if you're really listening, wasn't just here's what we did, but here's how we learned, here's how we realized we made some mistakes, or they're not really mistakes if you just learn from it, and change what you're doing next time. Really, a lot of, if you think back of manipulating technology, it's not just, oh, we took a PowerPoint, we put some things in it, and that was it, but really using it to drive their learning. And that's where we are going. Their experiences are different today, and they're going to get more and more different than you and I had growing up. And we're building upon that. What you see tonight is unique. We're not doing this district-wide. We're experimenting, we're dabbling, we're getting better, we're getting more secure with it. We want to make this the norm. That's our vision, that's where we're going. So we hope you share some of this with colleagues, with neighbors, friends, tell people in other districts what we're doing. We've reached out and gone to other districts to try to get new ideas and things like that. So we really appreciate you coming to do this. Before I let anybody off the hook though, one thing is wait time in teaching. The best thing you can do in teaching, all the teachers are smiling, is wait time. You ask a question, you just wait until somebody responds. So we let you off the hook a little earlier. And when we asked, were there any questions you had for any of our panelists, we gave you a quick, okay, good, we'll move on. I want to revisit that a little bit. Does anybody have any questions? I think some of the boys and girls are eager to talk, and I think they're pretty comfortable talking off the cuff. So before we send you on your own, did anybody wish we gave you more wait time? I know.
I mean, my question is for the science project. Were you also graded on the written piece just as much as you were on the?
It was everything in the whole.
Yeah.
What other questions? What other questions do you have? I practically a lot. I'm used to faculty staring at me. Just.
Yes. My question, on average, how long did it take people from Elizabeth and Gravy, you guys know how long it took you to get together on projects?
Hours.
A month altogether. I heard some examples. If I could ask a question, did you do all of your work at school, or did you do some of your work at home also?
No.
Oh, give me an example of what you did at home.
We found research on the and we worked with
Okay. Examples. What other questions do you have from the audience?
The types of programs and software that you use and stuff? Did you guys research and find that yourselves, or was that something that was like supplied?
Yeah, we had sometimes for different kinds of presentations, we had multiple options.
Right.
So for a presentation, like they said, you could have done a Google presentation, you could have done a Lucid Press, you could have done a blogs or a website. So
You chose your own media on that?
yeah, and then if we found something different, like there is a Google Drive, Google Apps these days, and that's where video is and Lucid Press, and that's how we combine them. And if we found something that we could use to X Mesh, we were able to. We had the opportunity.
Within the class, did all of the students do it, or was it just you, or did they pick you out as the premier in each class?
They really just picked us because speakers, I think. A lot of people did a good job on the project.
But did all of them get a chance to give their project during the class?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so they all did, and then they kind of chose one per class?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think your question is exactly what you clarified. Your whole classes did these assignments. We just picked a couple to show tonight, but all of your classes did all of these assignments in different ways, individualized. One in the back.
This is kind of a general question for everybody, so I don't expect everyone to answer this, but maybe I'll point at a couple of people and ask you to answer this question. In using all the tools that you used, did you find that these tools kind of made it more interesting or more attractive to do the work? Did you find it easier or harder to get the assignment done using the tools? And I'd like to start with you, young Miss Leatherwood. Go ahead.
We used a lot of tools, like we used different documents and research sites, but the main thing was that it made it easier because we had a bunch of different sources to make sure what we had was the best option. All of the things we used was just another step to get to the final production. I don't think if we took out like any of the steps we did, it wouldn't be that good for the final presentation. So using a bunch of different sites and sources is really helpful for making a presentation.
Anyone else wants to answer? Repeat your question again.
Did anyone find that using these tools made it harder to do the assignment, or did everybody generally kind of feel that it was easier?
I kind of thought it was a little harder because I'm not really good with technology. So I was kind of just going off of what my peers were doing, and they showed me how to do it, and I did it. So it was more of a learning experience for me. Everybody else kind of, I guess, got it already.
I thought it was easier because newspapers.com used to be a bunch of things that you could compare with nowadays with back then. So I thought that made it way easier.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that wanted to do something for the project that they couldn't because of the technology?
The question was, could anybody not do something because of the technology that you wanted to do?
I guess we have to answer this question. Not really.
It made it a little harder because on the pictures there were watermarks, and our teacher said that we couldn't use any pictures that had watermarks on it.
Why couldn't you use pictures that have one?
Watermarks are when there's a picture and a company like trademarks it, and they have like words that are kind of clear, but people can still see them, and so it kind of like ruins the picture.
Did all the students present this to every class? Or this is your first time doing the presentation with us?
I'll answer that question. They all presented all of their final products to their classes. They didn't present it in this way, because what we were doing here was having them go through the whole process of learning. So when they presented to their classes, they presented, and of course they spoke through the presentation and so on. We just kind of clicked through a few slides for you because for time reasons. But they did present to their individual classmates all of their presentations. I think everyone here did that.
And did anybody present this to any family before rolling it out? And how was the experience and how was your feedback?
Raise your hand if you presented to your families.
Good idea to do.
We had a different thing. Thank you. Well, for the 6th grade, we represent Product Challenge, so it's like kind of an extracurricular program almost, except you're kind of recruited for it. So our presentation, we only had study hall to do it. So we spent all our study halls on Monday and Wednesday for months and months and months working on this project, and we still had to do it outside of school because it took so long, because we only had half an hour 2 days a week. So then at the end, we presented our presentations during lunch and study hall, and our family came, Mr. Arnold came, Mayor didn't come, but so, and it was fun to present to other people, like outside what we see every day, and to have like other people congratulate us on doing a good job. So yeah.
And someone actually thought that we should bring the mayor, so that's a good thing we didn't.
Okay, and when we were presenting to our classes, some of the parents of the children who were in our class came by in our classroom to watch our presentation, so that kind of like prepped my group and I for this moment here.
Also, some people have their family like edit their essay for us. Like my mom's an English teacher, some of you know. So she checks it and proofreads it, then gives us comments.
And also when the parents came by, and like during other times when we were practicing, Mr. Thomas, our teacher, had an iPad and recorded us, so then we could watch a video of us presenting, so then we could see areas where we need improvement, or in areas where we were pretty solid in.
Well, let's give him one more round of applause. If you didn't get a chance to sign in, please do that. A, so we can just know who showed up, or B, if you give us your email address, we do want to send you a link to a survey just to get some feedback to see how we can improve this next year. I was looking to do better. So thank you. Have a great evening, and appreciate the boys and girls.